Hello! In my last video I tried something a little bit different. Normally I talk about Magic the Gathering content, but I talked about a tabletop war game, Flames of Orion, which is this free mech war game. If you haven't seen the video, go and check it out. And in that video I described the game, how it plays, the rules, and why I really like it. And also in that video I mentioned that I was going to try and do some battle report videos. So I really like war game battle report videos on YouTube. I love watching them. I think it's really nice to have them on the background, something to chill out to. And I thought I would try something new, give it a go, and try doing my own for Flames of Orion. So here we are. My first Flames of Orion battle report, which is called Scrap Metal. So we're going to get into this, and I'm going to take you through a battle report of a game of Flames of Orion and see how it played out. So, the mission that was played, we're going to keep it really simple for this first one, and we're going to play Warzone. So, Warzone is basically the line both forces up and just kill each other. You can see the objective here is turn the other mechs into shrapnel, and the winner is the player who has the most models standing by the end of the 5th round. So, that's the mission we're going to play. So we're going to look at the forces that was used in this mission. So the first force is the mech mercenary unit Desert Fang. So going to go through the roster here of the units that are used. So first we have Sandstorm. Sandstorm is a heavy mech. The heavy mech it's technically not a rule within the standard Flames of Orion rule set. It's a homebrew rule that I came up with. I'll link to my list of homebrew rules in the description below if you want to give those a try out. So Sandstorm has an incinerator, which is basically like a heavy flamethrower. He has a power weapon, which is like his giant fist that he can punch people with. He has a medium weapon and a light weapon, so kind of like small cannons or laser, whatever you want to call them, and improved servos that make him move faster. Dust Devil then is a medium mech. He has an AI missile system with high X rounds. So an AI missile system means he can hide behind cover and he can attack people without needing line of sight because he sort of fires missiles from the air and they track targets. So he can just stay hidden and but still cause some damage, which is really cool. He also has a medium weapon and a light weapon. And then we have Sunburn. Sunburn is a medium mech. Sunburn has a flamethrower and a close range weapon. So Sunburn really wants to get up close and do a whole bunch of damage with his flamethrower, cause extra heat on enemy mechs, or just blast them with his close range weapon. He also got a light weapon. He also has a Geo Scanner, which is a upgrade that lets him make a free move at the start of the game. So he can get into the enemy's forces closer and sooner. And then he also has improved servos that make him move faster. And then we have Hotshot, which is a light mech. So Hotshot is quite simple. It just has a medium weapon with incendiary rounds. So the incendiary rounds means that he causes extra heat when he damages an opponent. That's kind of a theme of Desert Fang, is just kind of inflicting extra heat on the enemy to make them overheat and limit what they can do. He also has a light weapon and a basic melee weapon just to kind of fill out points. And then looking at their opponents of Squadron Rho 674. So these are kind of like the well-armored, tough military guys. So first we have Bastion, who's a heavy mech. So he has a heavy weapon, which is basically his 2 giant arm cannons. A heavy weapon does 4 damage. It's like a real... medium weapons do 2, light weapons do 1, and a heavy weapon does like so much more. The only downside with the heavy weapon is, well, there's 2 downsides. He can't move in the same turn he uses it, so spoiler, he doesn't move for the whole game. He stays exactly where he is. But it does 4 damage, and it takes up 2 of his weapon platforms because it's so big it does so much damage. He also has a light weapon. He has siege armor. So the siege armor makes him slower, which doesn't matter because he's not been moving, and it gives him extra armor and extra hull points. So so Bastion is a real just brick wall to deal with. Then we've got Chief is a medium mech. Chief's got a medium weapon and a light weapon, so pretty standard stuff. He also has an airstrike authorization. So this is an upgrade where once per game he can call in an airstrike anywhere on the battlefield, and it hits kind of like an AoE, and it does light damage automatically without needing to roll to hit. So it's kind of fun. And he's got extra arm as well to make him more survivable. And then we've got Pilgrim, who's a medium mech. Pilgrim has a long range weapon and a close range weapon, so able to deal with any kind of situation. The long range weapon means that he doesn't suffer the long range penalty for shooting at targets. The close range weapon has a limited range, but it's easier to hit when he's up close. So I say he can really sort of do a bit of anything. And he's also got a light weapon, extra armor. And then we've got Valiant, who's a medium mech, who, like Hotshot in Desert Fang, is quite straightforward. He just has a medium weapon, a light weapon, a basic melee weapon, and extra armor. So those are the forces that are going to be used. Let's take a look at the battlefield and how I set that up. So this is just a 2x2 area, which is the minimum size recommended for a game. I've set up some terrain here. These are cardboard ruins from, I want to say, battle sector, battle system, something like that. I'll put a description in the I'll put a link in the description below if you want to check that out for your tabletop wargame needs. They're really cool. It's just little cardboard ruins that you just clip together, and they flat pack. They're just great. I really like them. So the forces set up 3 inches from their respective table edge. We've got the deployment here. So Sunburn is at the top there, Sandstorm, Hotshot, Dust Devil on one side, Chief, Bastion, Pilgrim, Valiant on the other, and just kind of an overlay of the battlefield here. So before the first turn begins, Sunburn gets to use his geoscanner, and he gets to make a free move, so he gets up closer, so he can use his flamethrower and his close range weapon, but that's the cost of taking 1 heat, and as we'll see in this game, there's some of these mechs are going to really run really high into the heat. So that's it, that's the setup for the game. So we're going to go then into round 1. Okay, so Squadron Rho get initiative for round 1, which means they get to act first. So right off the bat, we've got Bastion. He's got a nice line of sight here to Sandstorm through the window. So he takes a shot. Unfortunately, misses with the heavy weapon, but he does get a hit in with his other weapon. Unfortunately, Sandstorm gets a cover bonus from the ruins and buildings, so he makes his armor save and actually takes no damage. But it's really lucky that Bastion missed with the heavy weapon, otherwise that would have been a huge amount of damage at the start of the game. Going over to Desert Fang, Dust Devil takes a shot at Valiant with his AI missile system, but even with a bolstered shot to try and ensure that it hits, unfortunately misses, so just fires a bunch of missiles into the air for literally no gain. Then we have Pilgrim from Squadron Rho advances, also takes a shot at Sandstorm, but just doesn't manage to get any hits. Again, the mixture of the cover and all that means that he just can't get any damage on Sandstorm, which is a real shame. What we've got then is Sunburn comes forward, so he'd already moved forward because of his geoscanner. He unloads everything at Chief, so his flamethrower, his close range weapon, his light weapon, everything into Chief. Gets a mix of sort of hits and misses with his weapons. Most importantly, does get a hit with the flamethrower, which does manage to inflict some extra heat on Chief, but the Chief's armor manages to prevent all the other damage, so he doesn't actually he doesn't lose any hull points from that. And then after firing a few shots back, which also miss, Chief's retreats back here. Then we go over to Hotshot, who comes forward and he takes a shot at Pilgrim, manages to get a hit with his medium weapon equipped with incendiary rounds. However, Pilgrim manages to get a double 6 on the armor roll, which means that he takes no damage. So again, Hotshot's just built up heat for no reason there. And then finally, Valiant comes forward here now that Hotshot has exposed himself, takes some shots there, but also misses, but again just builds up heat for taking extra actions and making bolstered actions. And then finally, Sandstorm comes forward to take a shot at Valiant, who's now in the open, and again fires everything, misses or fails to cause damage. So basically a turn where everyone ran around, did no damage, and just gained a bunch of heat. So not amazingly exciting first turn. That's the overview of how everything moved and how everything gained heat. And at the end of round 1, this is how the stats are looking for each of the mechs. So as we go into round 2, where things actually start happening. Okay, round 2. Desert Fang get initiative, so they get to act first, which is really good because Sandstorm has Valiant dead in his sights, so fires everything, does a bolstered shoot action to fire all his weapons at Valiant. Unfortunately, his incinerator runs out of ammunition on the very first shot, rolls a natural 1 on the attack roll, which means it just has no ammunition now, which is a real shame because his incinerator was a really good, like, powerful, heavy flamethrower, so it would have been really good to keep a hold of that, but that's out of ammunition. So, but everything else fires, and he managed to get some damage on Valiant, which is actually really good. It's first damage of the game. But then, of course, Sandstorm is out in the open, which means Bastion can take a shot. So once again, lines up with a heavy weapon, and unfortunately misses with a heavy weapon and everything else as well. So Bastion at the moment not really achieving anything, but don't worry, his time is coming. Don't you worry about Bastion. Then we have Sunburn. He managed to get some damage on Chief with his close range weapons. Doesn't hit with the flamethrower, which is a real shame, but manages to get a little bit of chip damage there on Chief, which is pretty good. Pilgrim and Hotshot, these two are just squaring off against each other. They just miss all their attacks, they fire everything, and just cannot hit each other, even though they're like literally within spitting distance. Just nothing is achieved there, so that's a real shame. They're just kind of maneuvering around each other. But then what happens then is Valiant actually managed to shoot back at Sandstorm and get some pretty decent damage on him. Actually gets multiple hits with his medium and light weapons, managed to do some real damage to Sandstorm, which is actually pretty good. In revenge though, Dust Devil managed to get a critical hit with his AI missiles on Valiant. Dust Devil still being tucked away here at the back, sort of hidden away from any line of sight, any kind of retaliation. So managed to get a critical hit with the AI missiles on Valiant, doing more damage and knocking down to only one hull point. So Valiant is almost destroyed. But then Chief evens the score because he then takes aim at Sandstorm, fires everything he's got, and again manages to do a whole bunch of damage which Sandstorm's armor can't prevent, and gets Sandstorm again down to only one hull point. So we've got two mechs now who are only on one hull point each. So that was a turn where stuff actually really happened. I know it seemed quite quick, but that's kind of the game of Flames of Orion. Things can escalate really, really quickly. And you can see here as well, people are really building up heat as well. So there's going to be some turns where mechs are going to have to like just not take a turn while they purge that heat. So we'll see how that affects round 3 as we go into that. So round 3, Desert Fang managed to get initiative, which is really good for Sandstorm because he's on his last legs. So rather than wait around and risk getting shot to death before he can achieve anything else, he charges into Chief and manages to use his close range weapons and to overpower Chief. Gets a really good hit in with his power weapon, doing some really heavy damage to Chief there. So at least he's done something before he inevitably dies, which is good. And then Valiant on the other side, on Squadron Rho's side, he's in the same position here, so he's only one hull point away from being destroyed. So he lines up on Hotshot here, fires with everything, and unfortunately achieves nothing. All his attacks whiff, or if they do hit, they just get stopped by Hotshot's armor. So that's a real shame. Valiant didn't really achieve anything. Hotshot, on the other hand, retaliates, turns around, gets a hit on Valiant, and that's enough to destroy Valiant. And then Valiant explodes as we rolled high enough on the explosion chart for Valiant to explode. Unfortunately, there was no one close enough to get damage in the blast, so he just explodes and achieves nothing. Basically, that was, well, he managed to get some damage on Sandstorm, I suppose. But yeah, that's the first death of the game is Valiant. So yeah, so now Squadron Rho are down to only 3 mechs. So Pilgrim tries to take revenge here on Hotshot, fires away, only manages to get like a little bit of damage in, which is a real shame again. Fires with everything and just gets a bunch of misses, or it's stopped by armor. So real shame, did not get the revenge for his comrade as he had hoped. In return though, Dust Devil still hiding away at the back here, fires his AI missiles again and managed to get a little bit of damage on Pilgrim as well. So so Desert Fang kind of looking in a pretty good position here. However, that all changes when it's Bastion's turn. So he turns around and lines up Sunburn here, and with his heavy weapon, and actually manages to get the hit. Finally gets hit with his heavy weapon. So that is a huge amount of damage onto Sunburn. So that's 4 damage just from one hit of the heavy weapon. And Sunburn, unfortunately, has built up so much heat throughout the game so far, has no chance really but to spend his turn purging heat. So he loses a bunch of heat, because the way Flames of Orion's work is you build up heat by taking certain actions, but there's also a chance at the end of the round that mechs can gain heat as well from just generally like the radiated atmosphere and like the sunlight and stuff, just general heat build up. And there was a real chance there if Sunburn had taken actions and moved in and tried to attack Bastion here, he would have built up so much heat that he would have hit his maximum heat then at the end of the round and just been automatically destroyed. So had to take a turn here where he just purges heat, and that's the only thing he can do on his turn. So it leaves him in a kind of a very vulnerable position here. He's heavily damaged, and yeah, he had to skip his whole turn, not getting into cover, just having to purge heat. So yeah, really risky turn here. And then finally, back to Squadron Rho. So Chief does a bolstered disengage, which means he gets to move out of melee range for free without suffering any kind of automatic hit, and fires a little snapshot here at Sunburn, just hoping to finish him off. He does. He manages to get hit with his medium weapon, which is enough to cause Sandstorm to explode. So now they're both 1 mech down each. So going into 10-4, both forces only have 3 mechs each, and Chief takes a little bit of damage from the explosion as well. So that's how the map turned out here. Say 2 deaths and Squadron Rho backpedaling a little bit, I suppose. And this is the stats of how we're looking at the end of round 3. If you are enjoying this battle report, by the way, it's my very first battle report, but I hope you're enjoying it. Yeah, why don't consider subscribing? Because I say a decent portion of my of the watchers here are not subscribed, so it'd be really great if you could hit that subscribe button. And maybe if you're enjoying this, I'll keep doing them and working on them to make them better. But yeah, we're going to go into round 4 now and see what happens there. Round 4 and Squadron Rho win initiative, which is really, really good for Chief because he's down to only 1 hull point, so kind of in the position that Valiant and Sandstorm were in last round. And he decides it's the time to call in his airstrike authorization because Sunburn is lurking in the ruins behind him. There's a real chance here he could actually kill Sunburn before he runs in and manages to do some damage. So calls in his airstrike authorization. So this is it's the only thing he can do on his turn. Takes 2 hull actions. He can pick any point on the battlefield, and basically anything, he picks a certain point, and anything within a certain distance of that point takes D3 automatic damage. So there's a real chance here that he could destroy Sunburn. Unfortunately, it gets a low roll on the damage roll and only does 1 damage onto Sunburn, which is a real shame because it missed out the chance of destroying him. But now that Sunburn's only down to 1 hull point, is also now in the same position of like, well, I need to do something now before I'm destroyed. So runs in, perhaps a little recklessly here, but wants to get damage on both Chief and Bastion. The ideal option here was to kill Chief with the close range weapon and then get some heat on Bastion with the flamethrower, because Bastion was on really, really high heat here, so basically trying to force his hand to purge and essentially waste his turn. So it didn't go exactly as planned, so didn't hit Bastion with the flamethrower. Did hit Chief with the flamethrower though, which made Chief explode, which is a real shame because then Sunburn was then in range of the explosion, which then caused him to take damage and also destroyed him. So like a double KO there. So definitely not the best choice to run forward and get so close to the explosion. But that's just how it works out. Got to be careful around these exploding mechs. And then Hotshot came forward here and took a shot at Bastion. Again, tried to hit him with those incendiary rounds and build up extra heat on the big mech, because heavy mechs are less heat efficient, so they've got a lower heat threshold. And when you've got incendiary rounds, that's really good. You can build up the extra heat. Did get a little bit of damage on him, like a little bit of extra heat, but not enough really to change the really change things that much. And then all the other mechs on the board, so Dust Devil, Pilgrim, Bastion, they all just spent turns purging their heat because everyone had built up. So it was basically, so first turn was when everyone got all sweaty and hot, and this is the round where everyone's cooling down. So really, really quick turn, honestly. And so there wasn't much movement. See, double KO and Hotshot just coming in here. So that's how we're looking at the end of round 4 here. So Sandstorm and Sunburn both destroyed, Chief and Valiant both destroyed. Hotshot and Dust Devil still both pretty healthy. Pilgrim and Bastion also pretty healthy. So yeah, let's go into the final round here, which is also very quick, as now we've only got 4 mechs on the table. And Desert Fang win initiative, which is pretty good. So Hotshot was actually in a not great position. So he was he was about to reach maximum heat and was standing right in front of Bastion. So wasn't much he could really do. So we went with Dust Devil. Dust Devil took a shot at Pilgrim with his AI missiles and got a little bit of extra damage there. Dust Devil, I think the weakness was that he just stayed at the back here all game. Could have probably achieved more if he'd actually been more sort of up close in the thick of things, supporting the other mechs and like using his other weapons. So I don't know if really having him at the back here really was the best thing to do with him. And then what happened here, so then on Squadron Rho's turn to activate, Bastion turned round, got a critical hit on Hotshot with his heavy weapon. So that's 5 damage, which would normally, because Hotshot's a light mech anyway, that would normally enough be to just one-shot him anyway. So Bastion gets the critical hit, which is 5 damage with the heavy weapon. Hotshot failed all his saves. So even if he wasn't already damaged, that would have been enough to one-shot him. And he was destroyed. Didn't explode, so just destroyed as normal. And then that was it. So the only remaining action then was for Pilgrim, who came around here and finally managed to catch up with Dust Devil, managed to corner him here, and he got a critical hit with his weapons, and again managed to do like a fairly significant amount of damage here on Dust Devil, but it didn't really matter now because that's the final map. Because at the end of it, 3 Desert Fang mechs have been destroyed. Squadron Rho still have 2 standing, so Squadron Rho wins because they had managed to destroy the most mechs. They had the most mechs standing, so that was the end of the battle. Those 5 rounds have been played. So there is a whole campaign mode for Flames of Orion where you can roll at the end of the game to see if your mechs survive or if they have permanent damage. I've not been doing that. I'm just playing these as kind of like little one-shot standalone games. But you could do these if you wanted to get into Flames of Orion and do this whole kind of linked campaign thing. There's this whole extra phase as well where you can roll for discoveries, where you get extra credits and extra gear and stuff. You just make discoveries in the ruins of Orion, which is pretty cool. But as I say, I'm not going to be doing those for these games because that's a whole extra mode which I might try one day, but for now I just want to do these kind of little one-shot battles here. But I really hoped you liked that first battle report I've done for Flames of Orion. It's given me a real thirst to try and do another one, so I'll try and get another one of those done, maybe using Zetacor, which is the other mech force I have, which haven't been used here. They're more of a techie faction, so I think they play very differently to these 2 factions. But yeah, I hope you really enjoyed this first battle report that I've done. If you want to stick a comment down below, what was your favourite moment in the battle? Like, who do you think the MVP was? Personally, I think it was Bastion, just doing a whole bunch of damage. Had a bit of a rocky start to the game, but he managed to do some real serious damage. And also Sunburn, I think, was pretty fun, running around and like setting fire to things and essentially crossing the map and doing a whole bunch of damage with his flamethrower and just being kind of a nuisance. But yeah, I'd really like to know what your thoughts were down below. If you've got any kind of feedback on how I could make these battle reports better, please any comment you can leave I think would be really appreciated. But I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll be back next time, possibly with another battle report, but we'll see. So until then, thanks for watching, listening, and have a great day.